Hey guys, welcome back to more Just No HOA stories. In this video, a ridiculous HOA put a lien on 3 of my inherited houses to steal my property, and I honestly could not be more upset. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. So first I need to give some background to explain why and how I have 3 inherited properties all within the same HOA neighborhood. So I had 3 aunts that were triplets and according to my mother very attached to each other and did everything the other 2 did. They decided living together was a step too far, but they wanted to be very close and ended up all living within about 5 blocks of each other. From things that I've been told, this is not weird and apparently common for twins or triplets to end up very close to each other. Another thing, according to my mother, was that all 3 of them had something wrong that prevented them from conceiving kids naturally. Adoption also never seemed to happen or be something that they considered. Hell, none of them even lasted very long in their marriages and were literally in their own bubble from birth until death. Since within 6 months of one aunt dying, the other 2 soon followed. My mother was their younger sister, and despite them being in a bubble, they did not exclude her or see her as not family. We were all very close, and since I was their only nephew, I ended up making bank as a kid during Christmas and Easter. Tons of toys from my aunts and very happy me. If you feel bad about me being alone or whatever, don't. On my dad's side of the family, I have more cousins than I can keep track of, so it kind of evened out. So with me being their only nephew and having such a great relationship with me, all 3 of them ended up putting me in their wills to inherit their houses. All of which had no mortgages on them, which was fantastic for me since I was only 27 and did not have 3 mortgage kind of money. I will admit that it was overwhelming to still be living with my parents trying to get by and to then having 3 homes in my name. I was not sure exactly what to do with them or which one I wanted to live in. It was about an hour away from where I was currently living and working too, so commuting could be an issue. I work at a chain store as a manager, so I was able to talk to corporate and get a location closer to the homes. I picked one based on the sole fact that it had the biggest kitchen and I was always a big fan of cooking, but never had the space to really do it. For the other 2 houses I was between selling them or seeing if I was allowed to rent them out and make some extra income that way. It turned out it was legal, but I had a lot of paperwork and stuff to do, so it would again take some time. The HOA was quick to introduce themselves when I moved in and told me how sad they were to hear about my aunts passing away. Working as a manager, I know fake nice when I see it. 90% of my job is pulling that exact face and doing that exact voice when I have to give a nasty customer a refund or discount. The HOA clearly did not like my aunts, but I was not exactly sure why. For that, I called my mom to see if she had any of the family tea regarding this HOA. She was helpful and I learned that all 3 of them had a choice to join or not and they all refused to do so. They also were very outspoken women who bashed the HOA very publicly for just stealing money and not doing anything good. I could understand why somebody would not feel so bad about the people spouting hate for them moving out, but the HOA deserved the hate. I'm also one of those people that believe HOAs are bad, and if you live in a good one, it can change hands and turn horrible before you even know it. Back to the HOA though, they were sending me tons of letters and making house calls to tell me how important it is to join the HOA. That being part of the HOA provides me with protection that I would not have if I was not gonna be a part of it. With that line I had enough and it was my turn to step in because I might not be my aunt's, but that mouth runs in the family. Me protection? From the families in the neighborhood or perhaps the old grandfather that lives 2 doors down? HOA, you never know what can happen. Me, you do realize that gangs use that exact line when they wanna extort businesses for money. Do you really think I wanna join the HOA when you're coming at my door and acting like a gang would? HOA, you don't need to be so rude. Me, and you don't need to send me 100 letters asking me to join and then come to my house. It is called taking a hint, but clearly you cannot do that, so I will put this in words you know. I am not joining the homeowner association. HOA, it really is a benefit to join. I cut her off. I don't know how else I can word what I said. Either you did not understand basic words or you just don't care. Either way, get off my porch. I know some of you in the comments might call me out for acting rude, but I was tired of dealing with them and I knew acting like this was my best chance to get rid of them. Being polite just doesn't work because they feed on that like a shark smelling blood. They figured that they would get get their revenge on me in a different way. Revenge, by the way, that I don't think was justified since I didn't do anything to them aside from wanting to be left alone. So then, during all of this, I would like to point out that the letters never stopped and I'd been collecting them and voicemails they left me. I even went as far as to send them a certified letter they had to sign for to prove they got it, stating I wanted nothing to do with them. I wanted evidence since this site has so many people wishing for better hindsight, I didn't want to be one of those people. I started getting letters of a different nature after the one I sent them. It was them giving me fines for things, but not in what I would assume would be a normal way. In my mind, a legit letter would be like, hey, your grass is too long, you just need to cut it. Or, you need to pay us $50, just clear and to the point. These letters were just a mess. They were full of legal language that no normal person would be able to follow and just citing different rules using numbers and codes that I had no access to. The only thing that they were showing that made sense was the fines listed at the bottom of the page. Fines that I was not gonna pay since I never signed a contract to join them and say that I was gonna follow their rules. Going back to the gang metaphor for a moment, it's like saying you're not gonna pay so they will trash the store or break your windows. I know I keep going back to this, but I see so many parallels that people just are not talking about. So then I got a lawyer knowing something big was coming, and it finally did when I got the notice that the HOA was putting a lien on all 3 of my houses, stating lack of HOA dues and HOA fine payments being the reason. I knew the truth was they wanted to sell the house, make some quick and easy money, and then sell to people that would join the HOA. I gave my lawyer all of the letters and voicemails so I could countersue the HOA for harassment. They were going to have to produce a contract showing that I had signed it, so I also made sure my lawyer had previously signed documents from me to prove my handwriting. What I didn't expect was that the HOA did in court had their own lawyer speechless. Instead of claiming that I signed a contract, they claimed my aunts were HOA members, so that meant I could not opt out and was liable for the things they were sending me and for not paying my monthly dues for the 3 properties. My lawyer got copies of these and was showing them to me when I noticed something and tried and failed to choke back a laugh. Judges don't like laughing in the courtroom, so attention was drawn on me. Judge, young man, is there something entertaining about this to you? Potentially losing all 3 of your properties. Me, I'm really sorry, Your Honor. It's just that there's a big problem with the contracts that my lawyer showed me. Judge, what's the issue? The HOA lawyer chimed in and said, Sir, we had these filed and dated before he got the homes. If he wants to sit around and argue their authenticity. Judge, stop, let him speak. Me, well, on each one there's the house number and then at the bottom the signature, but none of their names match with the houses that they owned. Yeah, the HOA did not even do enough research to not mess them up. Basically, my Aunt A's name was on the contract for Aunt C's property, and Aunt B's married last name was being used for Aunt Number A. There was a lot of whispering and the judge was clearly not happy about it. There was no way these contracts were legit or legal. The judge stopped the liens due to the fact that the HOA had no power over the homes or to fine me. For the harassment charge, I had at their worst over 100 letters and calls a month from them. That's like 3 a day for anybody really bad at math. It was textbook harassment, and the person who signed all the letters and was on the phone was the vice president of the HOA, so she was getting in big trouble. Finally, the court did not like the fact that they had forged documents and took that to the district attorney's office to see if any criminal charges would be put against them. Also, all of their contracts were now gonna be considered suspicious and nobody wanted 100 court cases to figure this all out. People knew that what they did pretty quickly due to my mouth, and the only way the HOA could avoid a riot was to basically start from scratch with all the contracts, freeing everybody and then getting them to sign up again. Only nobody wanted to sign up thinking they would end up getting their house stolen as well. So in the end the HOA just disappeared because they wanted to get greedy and steal my property. I will say that my favorite part of it all was the fact that my aunts managed to pull the switcheroo many twins and triplets are known for, even after they died. And the next one is a petty revenge work story. I, 42 female, have this pregnant friend, 32 female. She wants to make a baby shower party. She talked to me and wants me to make some decor. 2 balloon arch, 4 balloon tower, balloon carousel with dolphins, a candy bar, and a big mermaid tail for the back of the cake table. Little mermaid soap for souvenirs, 10 candles, mermaid theme, purple, cyan, pink and silver, 20 mermaid tail keychains made of resin. All of this costs around $800. Because she is my friend, I don't ask for a deposit. My bad. The day of the baby shower, I was in the place at 10 AM with all the candy and half of the balloons filled. Start to put them in place. The party then starts at 2 PM. She comes back at 12 and I was eating BK. She starts yelling and cursing because it's not in place. I tell her to relax. Each balloon is filled, only need to put them in place. By 2 PM we will be all set. And then I ask for my money and she tells me, when you finish. At 1:30 PM she comes back and all was set. I was taking pictures of everything. Then she tells me, everything is beautiful, better than I expected, but I don't have $842 to pay you. Take $40 and leave. I tell her, what? $40 and leave? I paid more than $100 only for the candy bar. You think I'm a junkie? And she answers with, what will you do? You cannot take everything back, with a smile in her face. So then I do take all the candy and put them in the trays and take my pin glove and proceed to explode each balloon. She tries to stop me and I tell her, will you pay me? The baby daddy was there and started to yell. I tell him she doesn't want to pay. You will pay? I explode every single balloon. Put the candy trays and all the plastic decoration in my car, the keychains, the soap, the candles, took all the table's centerpiece and go. Also put all the decoration in the Facebook marketplace. I sold everything less than 2 hours for $800 and the lady who bought everything was 3 hours away but still went to my place to take it all at 7 PM. And the next one is a work malicious compliance story. So I worked for a 24-hour news organization. Someone needs to be in the studio at all times. As a staff monkey, I had things like PTO and vacation time, which I usually did not use too often, but we were allowed to carry over 5 unused days each year, as long as we used those days in the first quarter of the following year. However, the end of the year is in high demand for off time, because most people needed to burn unused vacation time that they couldn't carry over. Management wisely makes sure everyone knows the policies and schedules December well in advance, so there aren't any last-minute converge issues around the holidays. Since I did not use a lot of my PTO during the year, due to the built-up comp time and OT, I generally used it the week between Christmas and New Year's and took about 10 days off around then. One particular year, I had 6 days left, 1 extra day. But since I already took off the time between Christmas and New Year's already, there literally was not a day left for me to use as a day off, as no one was left to cover a shift if I were to take off. I went to the scheduler at management and asked for either a one-time exception to carry over the extra day, and I would take it on January 2nd, extending off time by 1 day, no go, I didn't do it with the required notice, or pay me 1 day's wages for the unused time, also a hard no-go. So here's the malicious compliance. Since I had so much built up PTO due to working holidays or comp time for OT work, I had a ton of other days banked. Combining my already booked holiday break with my 5 carryover days and the 10 new ones I got for the new year, plus some holidays that come in the early part of the year, I figured I was able to take enough time off that I would leave for my Christmas break on 24th December and not return until the last week of February to nearly March. And since I did it with enough notice they could not deny me, they now have to cover about 2 months of my shifts. The next day, I put my time off in the system and emailed the scheduler a note saying, have a great holiday, I will see you in March. The day following, I received a call from the VP of the department asking me what they need to do. I said simple, let me carry over my extra day, I will use it on January 2nd, you have almost a month to cover 1 shift and we are all good. I got the carryover day and used it. And yeah guys, if you ever got malicious compliance or any sort of petty revenge on people at your workplace, then please let us know about it in the comments or post the story on r/ripestories on Reddit, where there's a good chance that I will read it in the future video if it is a good story. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Being a farmer is not easy work. Regardless of where you are, if you are a big farm or a small farm, it can be very physically demanding. As a farmer myself, I put a lot of love and passion into my labor-intensive farm. I live in a community in Lithuania, which is in Europe, that is occupied by mostly farmers. Most of the farms here are pretty small, but that's okay, because we are able to source a lot of things locally from different farms. Anyways, one of my farmer neighbors has been a real douchebag ever since his wife left him. I feel sorry for the guy. They were married for quite some time, but after his divorce he turned into an extremely aggressive and confrontational man. He would blow up over the simplest things. I ignored it. If he found something to complain about, I would just brush it off and ignore it because I knew he was doing the same to the other neighbors as well. I mean, it's pretty hard to find something to complain about since our lands are pretty far apart, but I guess when you are miserable, you just cannot help it. Hell, him being miserable was part of the reason she left. I learned from another neighbor that his wife also took care of the financials of running a farm. After she left, he struggled to keep up with the financial metrics. Most of us use technology and whatnot now, but of course this guy was an old school pen and paper kind of guy. A resident in the neighborhood who is not a farmer had said that a wheelbarrow and a couple of shovels went missing from her backyard, and a few days later she saw the grumpy farmer wheeling in bags of feed in a wheelbarrow that looked just like hers. Of course, it was bought from a common store, so she could not prove anything, and to be quite honest, I doubted her myself at first. However, just a week or so after hearing about a wheelbarrow and shovels going missing, I noticed that I was short a few hay bales. I would like to make jokes that I am getting up there in age, but I know for sure that I should have had 4 to 6 more hay bales than I counted. That same day I noticed some hay bales piled up in my neighbor's front yard when I drove by. Seriously? There was no way that this was a coincidence. About 2 days later, I was coming home, and when I drove by his house, I saw him working out in the front. There was still a bale of hay sitting in the front, and I decided to try and question him about it without being too direct. I parked my car and approached him. It did not go too well at all. Me? Hey there neighbor, I am in the market for some more hay as I was looking to bring in some more cows. I saw you had a few out in your yard and I was wondering if you might have some connections. Grumpy farmer? Why don't you go out and look for it yourself? That is the problem with this town. Everyone just wants to mooch off of each other. Me? Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean to bother you. I just wanted to get some more hay. Grumpy farmer? Yeah, well, I cannot help you. As I walked away, I heard him muttering some insults under his breath, and that just sparked something in me. I did not even think about or really register what I was saying, I just turned around and snapped. I told the guy that I was trying to be nice, that people in the neighborhood were accusing him of stealing some stuff. Of course, this made the guy freak out and he started ranting and raving to the point that our people started coming out to see what the commotion was about. Keep in mind that we do have huge yards and our houses are not right next to each other obviously, so he was causing such a ruckus that he was catching the attention of our neighbors. He starts spewing out all these curse words and threats at me. He even stated that he was going to light my small barn on fire. At this point, one of the neighbors called the police because he was getting so loud, aggressive, and also making active threats. Well, he continued yelling and hollering about and runs back inside his house. At this point, I thought he was just all talk and I figured he was done. But I was so wrong. He had snuck out his back door and ran over to my property. I did not catch this because I was talking to a neighbor while we were waiting for the police to come. I don't know if I blocked out a part of this, but the next thing I know, the police and sirens are pulling up and yelling at someone to stop. The grumpy farmer was lighting my barn on fire. Yes, he was pouring a can of gasoline all over the walls and lit it on fire. Within minutes, firefighters, sirens and more police showed up and the grumpy farmer man was in handcuffs. Luckily, none of my cows were in the barn at the time. They were still out and roaming the field, but God, I was so upset. The farmer guy ended up going to jail and of course I did not have to fight much in court because multiple people witnessed him doing it. He was charged with arson and had to pay $400,000 in damage for the barn. Luckily, I was able to repair the barn but also buy his property while he was in prison. So not only did I double my land space for farming, but I also doubled my profits as well. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much and I will see you again tomorrow.